Alpers. You're unmuted.
Yeah, I just realized who she was.
Oh, really?
I know Derek.
Yeah, that one's off.
But I'd like to call this meeting to order, the Benzie County Board of Commissioners. Today is May 14th, 2024. We're in the Frank Walter House Boardroom. Roll call, please.
Worsacki,
Here.
Cunningham,
Here.
Not is excused, Markey,
Here.
Nye,
Present.
Roloffs.
Here,
Sauer,
Here.
please stand for the invocation and the pledge of allegiance. Dear Lord, thank you for the opportunity to serve the citizens of Benzie County. I would ask for your guidance with the decisions we'll make today. Please keep all of our public safety personnel safe and free from harm. I ask this in the name of your Son. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Today's agenda in front of you.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
and support.
There's a motion and support. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved. So upcoming is a tribute presented to National Police Week, National Corrections Officers Week, and National Emergency Medical Services Week. Police officers, corrections officers, paramedics, and EMTs are nationally recognized as the protectors of our communities. And in May, we celebrate the brave men and women who take an oath to protect, serve, and provide aid in medical emergencies. We honor those who serve as Benzie County Sheriff deputies, both Road Patrol and Corrections Division, and our Benzie paramedics and EMTs. These dedicated men and women must operate in an environment where the responsibility of their position is constantly scrutinized, and they undertake the critical yet difficult task of addressing the actions of those affected by addiction and mental illness. They strive to maintain a safe community for those they serve in Benzie County, all the while facing challenging and dangerous incidents. They are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need and offer a path of safe haven. On behalf of the county, I do hereby give thank you to Benzie Sheriff's Office, Benzie paramedics, and EMTs for their sacrifice to Benzie County, and I call upon all government officials, parents, teachers, school administrators, caregivers, business leaders, nonprofit organizations, and the people of Benzie County to thank their law enforcement and corrections officers for their service to the community. And this goes way more than how I can personally elaborate on these things, but we do realize the dangers and the stresses that go along with all your commitments, and we thank you for being committed to Benzie County. Approval and or correction of the minutes from the regular meeting on April 23rd.
We did have one correction this morning that on page 2, under Kyle Mauer's report, should have said stated instead of state.
With that change, I will move to approve. And support.
Karen? Thank you. There's a motion and support. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed? So moved. As well, April 23rd closed session meeting minutes. Only one sentence, Evan.
I'm working through it.
I move to accept the closed minutes as.
Mark, you will support.
Motion and support. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? So moved. Brings us to our first public input. Anybody like to share on their public comment? Close public comment, move on to elected officials and department head updates. Building department, please.
My name is Nick Keck. I'm here on behalf of Bert Gale. He's on vacation. I work side by side with Bert. Jim, your local building official is here as well. So I'd just like to draw your attention to the page you had with history of building permits the last 4 years. You will see in 2020, there was 59 permits at this first quarter. 21, there was 63. 22, there was 60. 23 was 56. And now into 24, we're at 81. But we're in an upward trend. Building is still going strong. Can't really explain it with the interest rates and price of lumber, but people are doing what they want to do.
Wow. Any questions about the building department? Gary?
Well, somehow. But yes, really not. I don't hear people complaining that they're not being inspected on time. I guess I did a while back.
Yep.
Sure, you guys get feedback on that
We
too. And I can't remember why. I think it seemed to me it was something that happened just about the tail end of winter. It's close to spring and it had to do with footings or something. I can't recall, but I'll let you know if I
If you
hear.
don't hear anything else.
Okay, all right.
I had 2 phone calls already this morning asking what time you're gonna be there, so we try to be
Alright.
right on phone calls and get back with people, so.
So normally, well, how long does it take you to? The guy calls in today, will he get it tomorrow?
He calls by 3:30 today, it'll be on Jim's schedule tomorrow.
Excellent.
Is Jim covering all aspects of the building department? Or only,
Of building. but
Building.
There's electrical inspector, plumbing inspector, mechanical inspector. Our mechanical and plumbing inspector is one guy, he works Tuesday and Thursdays. Then electrical is Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
and I don't know that we've ever met those gentlemen other than this fellow. Just saying.
Well, they're out inspecting, Bob. We never see him.
Well,
Yeah. He's around for meetings, yeah.
I have
Hold it.
one.
go ahead.
So we've had a couple controversial issues in the county recently, the Sunkist issue and the new Dollar General in Honor. They're complex issues. Would you say, I guess I'm wondering, is your opinion that anything that fell in the purview of the county has been handled correctly? Can we be assured of that?
I'm not sure if Dollar General, Jim probably can attest to that, but we did talk about the Sunkist one and that has been addressed and taken care of in their part of the county.
Where does the Dollar General one stand at this point?
Hey, can you come up to the microphone, Jim? Yeah. Oh,
That one wasn't us. They had all the proper permits through the county. But after excavating a little deeper than they thought they would have to get to good sand, they did have a wetland issue, so they are working with EGLE now to address that. But I've been in touch with the EGLE individuals that are over the soil erosion, and we're all on par.
They think they can get to a point in time where they can comply?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, they have to just go through the permitting process probably.
Okay.
On the county end, they're great.
Is that city sewer there? The center sewer?
That's how they got it. It was an uncorrectable lot, but then they got EGLE
Right.
permission to hook into the honor system. Yep.
Figured as much, but
So based on what you've seen in these processes, there's nothing that needs to change in the county in how we handle things on our end?
Yep. I don't see anything we need to change on our end. They were all on the up and up, had the proper permits from us.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
so I realize, only because some of us have been here quite a while, some longer than others. That the winters have a huge thing to do about the waters and the lakes and the amount of fluctuation. And it was a fairly quiet year as far as snow and rain and the ice melt. So that actually is lower than what it could be normally.
But we did have a couple of big rain events.
Well, I understand that,
Spring
but
kinda lit up our phones a little bit.
also have to look at what the ice pack was and the snow, and it was minimal this year compared to how it's been over the years. I think that could have a down the road, a pretty good impact, especially because it looks pretty unstable underneath there.
Yeah.
But that's what them guys are all about, I suppose, so.
Yep.
If the floor starts doing this, they know they got a problem.
Mojo's still floating, so.
How much fills there? We don't know how much fills underneath that. But it is for sale though, Gary, so
Is it?
you never know.
I'm not.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
Rhonda, did you?
I'm sorry, did you have more?
Well, yeah, I have one more. I'm sorry. So the forms that you use, the land use, when they come to the county, it's a land use. Is that correct? That they obtain from the county? What does they get?
No, from the county end is just the building permit.
Just the building permit?
And the
Okay,
soil
and
erosion permit.
the forms that you use, are they created by the company that we contract with, or are those provided by the state?
Nope, those are our forms. the
Your
companies.
forms, okay. So if there were tweaks that were identified that would make finding out information easier, you would be open to considering those? Okay,
Yeah, we want to make it as easy as possible on our end of it. We don't want delays on the county end. Most of the delays end up because they don't have, we have, page 1 of our permit application is a checklist of forms they need, like for instance, zoning and driveway. And health department. That's because in the state law, it basically states we can't issue a building permit until all local ordinances are. And that usually is the hangup. Somebody doesn't get the right zoning permit, or something's not included in a zoning permit, or they don't have a driveway permit. Driveway was always there is the excuse we get. That.
yeah, I guess my question stems from the fact there's information, and you tell me if it's accurate or not, that there was a study done on that on our site prior with a person who was considering purchasing it that wasn't made available to a current owner. And just the idea that if a study was done, it should be available to future purchasers to know that determinations were made.
Yeah,
Do you have any idea? I mean, am I
don't know if-
tracking on that?
yeah, I don't know if any study had been done there. I do believe that the site didn't perk as far as the health department went.
Okay,
It was on a borderline in our wetland determination. So it wasn't really in the wetland determination, which we have maps for from EGLE.
okay.
But it was in the could contain wetland soils area.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Yep, appreciate it. Brings us to finance.
Oh, I think the sheriff had update.
Sheriff? We don't usually get you to authorize paying the bills.
Well, you never know what you might get.
There you go.
No, I just want to thank Chairman Roloffs for recognizing the men and women who wear the uniform, and the board for your support, all of you, each and every one of you. And I'm excited to say that after all the hard work we've been working at, and the staffing, and we've gotten to a point where as of May 12th, Sunday, past Sunday, we now have 24-hour road patrol
Very good.
in this county, and that's a huge thing to us.
How long,
Something
how long has it been, Sheriff?
I was here, but I can't,
I think it was
my mind goes
2008.
back
I think it was 2008.
2007 or 8.
Good.
So this is a huge milestone for the county and the citizens reaping the benefits, I believe, and we're excited about it.
How's your staff feel?
They're 3 days in, so they're
So they're ready for 4 days off.
still not quite sure, but a 12-hour shift is just something they will adapt to, and
Mhm.
they're
Best
actually
shift they're gonna
excited to
love.
have the
Yeah.
to be able
Oh,
to
yeah.
tell folks that, yeah, we're out there.
Right.
I got one citizen approached me yesterday and said, I think I saw a car at 5:30 this morning. I'm like, yes, you did. Yes, you did. So
Well, that's
that's
good.
exciting stuff. And I wanted to share that with you all. And thank you for your part in making that happen.
Well,
I appreciate it
we're
very much.
glad that your guys especially and gals. We're excited for this as well.
Yep, and we're fortunate to have the staffing to make it happen.
Yes,
Uh,
we are.
Is there gonna be some sort of announcement in the paper?
I'm hoping so.
Just-
Colin's
just
probably
make
listening right
public
now. He's pretty good at calling me after these meetings saying,
Okay,
oh yeah, here we go. Can I get a comment? So
it'd be nice to get some good publicity, so,
absolutely.
He'll call us. He
Positive
usually
press
does.
is good, right?
Wow,
thank you.
Yep, thank you all.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Sheriff.
thanks.
Sorry. I'm the sheriff. What's the last name?
Yeah, it was 878.
Now you want to pay the bills?
Sure.
In the amount of $952,147.54.
So moved.
Evan,
Support. Incoming.
Karen, motion and support. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Cunningham,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs,
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Worsakki.
Yes, ma'am.
Motion carried.
Consent calendar approval.
Make a motion to accept the consent calendar as presented. Mark, you'll support.
Motion and support. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Markey,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Worsakki,
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes.
motion carried.
All righty. Items removed from the consent calendar.
No, there was none.
Didn't have any.
Okay, old business. Item A, consider adopting ballot language related to a general operating millage reset.
This board established the Tax Limitation Advisory Committee not too long ago. And that committee sat down to talk about the general operating millage. I won't go over too much of the history because we've talked about the Headley reset and those things quite a bit. But just in recap, Benzie County set its general operating millage at a indefinite status in 1982. The committee was established and the chair, Randy Rice, is here to also answer questions of the board. But the committee had some great dialogue and we really talked about how we could approach this down two different paths. So there's this indefinite piece that's been lingering for years. There's no opportunity to reset. It's just continuously rolling back from Headley. But then there is the rollback, and should we address that? And the committee as a whole agreed that right now in our county and in our economy, it's not the appropriate time to ask for any sort of reset. However, or any sort of increase in taxes. However, they did believe that that indefinite status really does pigeonhole Benzie County in a lot of ways. And so the recommendation of that committee was to place on a future ballot, and I do have it teed up for August, to place on the August ballot, no increase, so keeping that levy where it's at, but then putting a 2-year time clock on it. That does a couple of things. That then forces the county to talk about it in 18 months to get it ready for the ballot, rather than it being another 42 years. And it also maybe in 2 years, the opportunity to potentially ask for an increase is a better opportunity. We're all feeling it right now in the economy and the way inflation is, and there's other millages that are going to be asked for an increase, and the community is really feeling it. And so we understand that and we recognize that. And to the community, hey, give us this opportunity to talk to you again in 2 years, and maybe the time is right to ask for an increase at that point. And at that point, we can talk about what we would do with that increase, whether it's added services, expanded services, bundling of millages, or what have you. We'll talk about that in 18 months-ish to 2 years, potentially, if this were to pass in August. And like I said, Mr. Rice is here if you have any questions for him. He did chair the Tax Limitation Advisory Committee, and he did a really great job.
Good. Well, first off, I'd like to thank Mr. Rice for accepting the nomination. And not everybody wants to be part of some of these things. So we appreciate what you've done in the past, and everything I've heard of it was a great experience for everybody. So I appreciate that.
I've got a couple of questions, I guess. So the rollback process does not stop. Am I correct, or does it stop if this passes?
It's still, so the rollback happens no matter what on all of the millages. That's in state law. So what this is going to do is it sets a timeline on it. So like this is a 2-year. So what we would do in August, if passed, is it would keep that levy where it's standing, but then next year it could roll back. But then in 26, we have the opportunity to go back to the voters and ask again. So right now with that indefinite status, we can't really go to the voters without going through this rigorous process of a tax limitation advisory committee and those sorts of things. Whereas if you have this timeline on it, it automatically prompts us to go back to that community in that time frame every so many years. And at that time, you can ask for an increase.
We don't have to set up the tax. Board, right, or no?
If we're going to increase it in 2 years, we would have to, because we haven't done that piece yet. So we're kind of piecemealing it in a way. But we're trying to get that timeline piece taken care of now. And we feel pretty confident that that piece we can accomplish. The other piece we're not able to accomplish. So in 2 years, we're going to have to do the big process again to then put it back towards the top, because we haven't done that piece yet.
My concern is this seems a little convoluted and hard to understand. So from a voter standpoint, I know how I'd vote. I'm not gonna say, but I just don't feel it's clear enough that we actually know where we're going. And it did. The townships were the ones that were pushing this extremely hard. And they're not the intermediate school, the ISD anymore, but my understanding, they have to go to the public on their own.
Correct.
So honestly, I don't even know why they're on there. It doesn't make any sense to me at all.
It's a state law issue.
It's an issue too.
Yeah, so we're unique in the sense of we have a regional ISD. A lot of areas don't, and so it's different. They would be part of the county township process. We're unique in Northern Michigan because we have a regional one that we're kind of it's an exception almost of them having to follow our process because of that regionalization of that ISD. So the law applies to most of the others. We're unique in Northern Michigan as normal.
Okay, so if this were to pass, that would eliminate the
Indefinite piece,
indefinite part of it. That wouldn't have to be readdressed.
correct.
Can I interject, Gary, for just a
Yes,
second?
sure.
So this sheet that administration makes up, when I go to my meetings, if you take it with you and it shows all our individual millages here, under our general operating fund, it's got the word indefinite over here. If this should pass, that will remove that word and put the year 2026
Correct.
in there to be reconsidered. So it doesn't mean that there's going to be an increase. It doesn't mean in 2 years there's going to be an increase. It means we can talk about it again in 2
Every-
years.
yeah.
Where we can't talk about it at
That's a
all.
utopian idea. I like that, but I know how government works. And in 2 years, we'll be asking for an increase. See that now, so, I guess
Well,
you could put
whether
it in
we-
front of the voters and see what they think, but,
Whether we do this now or not, we could be asking for an increase in 25 or 26 or 28. This at least adds some security to our staff that we're going to continue to talk about this because it's been 42 years. You guys have talked about it once outside of this.
no,
And
there's been
a
a
couple-
couple of times they set up the allocation boards and then they kind of shut them down midstream, so,
Right. So we've never gotten this far in the process. The Tax Limitation Advisory Committee was only set up one other time. They attempted to set up and it never got there. This at least secures the conversation. We have to have the conversation. The can cannot continuously be kicked down the road. And I said it in the tax advisory and I'll say it here. We're okay right now. We are. And we're probably going to be okay next year. But after that, we're cutting services. We're going to have to. We're very excited about 24-hour road patrol that we just put in place. Huge accomplishment for Benzie County. I don't know the longevity of that if we continuously roll back with our funding.
well, I also appreciate what Andy did. That
Yeah,
was
he did.
good, and I'm really appreciate the fact that you stepped up and took charge, and that was, I know how much work you guys put into this. I think 2 of them. And somebody got the farm and got screwed up, so, guess we'll see where it goes. I don't know how you sell this to the public.
It's a big informational thing, and
Right.
if it doesn't come out right, it's not gonna have support.
Clarity is the biggest thing for me. Without that, it's gonna be difficult to
Mhm.
convince people this is a good idea. And is it a good idea? I mean, I'd like to say, I know in 5 years I'm gonna be broke. I want to double my wages in the next 2 to cover it.
Well, if you think back,
Don't know if that's gonna.
think back about 6 years ago, this room would be full of people. On every meeting, this room would be full. And it hasn't been that way in a long time because the public has been tolerant of us. Hopefully we gained some trust back over the years. But plan on a full house.
So
Yeah.
our office will start putting out information now. We've put out some information up until now, but we were hesitant to put out too much information because if it was not going to go in front of the voters, why?
Mhm.
In a lot of ways. If you decide today to place it on the August ballot, we will then put out a lot more information as to what this means so that the community can be educated on what they're actually voting on. We just haven't done that extent yet because what wasn't necessary, you know, if it wasn't going to be on the ballot, how much was necessary to put out to the public? So,
Yeah, and the education, Katie, what you're saying, the education is super key on this for just understanding. It's not like we're going there and making the decision.
right.
We're offering and giving the information. And finally, we have a timeline of at least for the second step or whatever step you want to call it. I would make the motion that the Board of Commission number 2024-12, resolution approving ballot language to alter the duration of the general operating millage for the county, townships, and intermediate school district, which would replace the indefinite status of the county operating millage on the August 2024 primary ballot.
So let me ask one thing. We're bypassing item. I just understood.
Item A.
No,
You just said resolution for the August 24 ballot. That is item B. Item A does not say anything about that.
so
Right.
the motion is keyed up as August. It wasn't noted as August on the agenda, but the motion is teed up as an August ballot measure. If this board wanted to change it to November, they could do that. But as that motion stand and as the resolution is written in this packet, it's for the August ballot. B is also an item in consideration for the August ballot. The 2 items.
Okay, that's good. Motion and support. Any further discussion?
I think it's important to reiterate again, we are one of 2 counties that has this indefinite status.
Right.
And removal of this, I think allows
Yeah.
allows the opportunity for the voters to do what they should be able to do if we are ever in the position to have to cut services. I mean, we aren't even talking about increasing services. We're talking about keeping the status quo.
Correct.
And if that comes to fruition where we are in trouble, and we are not right now, the voters should have a say, and this allows
Correct.
that. So it's important.
I think Mr. Rice wanted to say something.
Sure.
Randy Rice. Being on the board and listening to the public stuff, talk, and then talking to other people outside of the meetings, there was 2 issues that come up. One was they really appreciated the openness of the board, being everything was public, you know, and there was input and everything. When outside talking to people, their concern was the trust factor. It's a huge, huge thing because a lot of people remember some of the things that went on in the county from taxpayers' money being spent on it. That was a huge issue. So I'm not sure exactly what the state law is for language on the ballot, but make it as simple and black and white as possible, and don't leave any gray areas or any, hint of one thing or another, just black and white. So that they can decide, because it was a huge, huge issue with people about trusting the county government and not the administrator, not you, but other ones that have been here. They're just concerned about how the money, if it was to be increased, how is it going to go? Is it going to be wasted? That's their concern. But the openness of the meetings, I really did get a lot of good feedback on that. So.
And that, Randy, I appreciate, I'm sorry,
you're
I
good.
cut
Keep
you
going.
off. I appreciate that because last fall on 30 October, we had a big open house here. And that was one of the issues that was brought up consistently about trust. But then to what Bob was saying about this room being empty right now, in general, the room is full when people are dissatisfied. So for me, that's reflective of the board in recent years following through and doing what the public, and so they don't have to be here all the time. That's an assumption on my part, but just from my experience going, when there's issues, the room is full and standing room only. So we do realize the trust, and our administrator, Katie, has been, and her whole team there has been focusing on that education and openness. And just like you've reflected, I think people appreciate that and they're learning. It takes a long time to regain trust, but through communication, which all of us do very diligently, and I mean, going to the meetings and sharing information helps in that education. We're doing it from a lot of different avenues. And so I think it's baby steps, but we're getting there.
With
We're getting
the
there.
issue of more attendance in the meetings. I brought that up talking to people that I know outside of the committee. And I brought that up, you're welcome, show up, everything. And the number one response was, I'm working. I'm working, I have to work, I can't break away. In the evening, we had evening meetings. People couldn't get away because they had family time. So it's not necessarily that they don't want to be here, it's just that they can't.
And that issue has been brought up in January too, that we would change our meetings, have maybe split times, one in the evening, one in the day. And I'm sure that may come up again. I know other commissioners have supported that in the past.
Sure.
And that's legitimate concern, I would say.
But they do have the virtual option, which if you really, you
Want
don't
the
have to leave the
information.
house.
Yeah. Well, if
You
they-
can't have the input.
But if you're out, field, if you're out on a tractor, you can't stop
No.
and attend on your phone, or if you work at a factory, or even if
Right.
you're a daycare provider, it's hard to connect online to see done live. So like I said, it's just a lot of little things that can be overcome, but they just have to be addressed.
So I will add that that was part of the reason we started live streaming on YouTube, is so that folks could go back and watch, and so they could feel like they had an input, or, and then our email addresses and everything are very public. The Tax Limitation Advisory Committee meetings, I also did live stream them on YouTube, and they are on YouTube. So if the community wants to listen to the dialogue of those meetings, they're welcome to go to the Benzie County YouTube channel, and those are all on there, stored on there, just like all of our meetings are, right on that YouTube channel. So folks, when they do have a spare hour at, before bed, rather than reading a book, maybe they can watch a YouTube video of our really cool meetings. And
they
just
can speed ahead.
they can. And just to read to the public what the ballot language would be if this is approved. Shall the indefinite duration of the separate tax limitations for the county of Benzie, townships, and intermediate school district within the county, as previously established by the voters in 1982, be altered to a 2-year time period, 25, 26, or until altered by the voters of Benzie County with no change to the current rolled down tax rate. That would be the ballot language. So to me, that's a fairly simple language ones than the legal lingo that's in a lot of ballot language. That one seems to be a bit more simple.
Do we have copies of them?
It's within the resolution in the packet.
Okay.
Yep.
It's in the packet.
I just want to clean up the language that I had challenged a minute ago on item A and item B. Item A has nothing to do about 2024, and when Karen said that, it appeared to me that she was talking about the second item. So she had included that only for the year. So that was my big concern. But the second one has to do with senior services millage, incorporated the 2024. So I just wanted you all to understand that.
Thank
Roll call, please.
Markey,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs,
Yes.
Sauer,
No.
Worsakki,
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes.
motion carried.
Now we move on to item B. Consider adopting the senior services millage resolution for the August 2024 ballot.
So this has been in front of you a couple of times now regarding the Commission on Aging or Senior Resources ballot language. Doug and I have spoke, and he's also met with his executive team, and we talked about which ballot he would prefer his ballot millage be on. They would prefer the August ballot, which that's fine with me. So what is teed up in your packet is to place the senior services millage on the August primary ballot. As you know, it is an increase of up to 1, and this would not take effect until the following year, so 2025. I also did include in your packet, as requested by Commissioner Janat, the list of all the different things that are going on the August ballot as we know of today in the county. So you'll see there that the August ballots are going to be a bit heavy, but it is the nature of the beast of an even year. In 2020, it's probably going to be just as heavy, but we really don't know what's going to be on the November ballot yet because those deadlines have not passed. But we did include what's going to be on the August ballot as of we know. I guess it was Thursday when we published the packet.
Right, because they have added, Colfax Township has added a millage proposal, and then Grand Traverse has not put in for
TCAPs.
Elmira yet,
Yeah.
the TCAP school proposal,
Right.
so it didn't show up on my report.
So there still could be a couple additional items on those ballots. The deadlines are approaching rather quickly now. So, and then as far as November, we won't know outside of, state offices and, county offices. We won't know what's going to be on those ballots until those deadlines have approached and passed, but we can all speculate. So,
And just to let you know, the resolution is 2024-014. Not 12.
That was in the recommended motion, correct?
Mhm.
What you're talking about?
yeah, it's 4. Sorry.
So I'll make a motion as the Board of Commissioners, resolution number 2024-014.
Yeah,
Is that
correct.
okay? Resolution authorizing millage election for our Benzie County Commission on Aging proposal and certifying ballot language for the August 6, 2024 primary ballot.
Support Cunningham.
Yep. Motion and support. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloff.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Worsakki,
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
motion carried.
Thank you. And we do have a 9:30 closed session appointment. And I'd like to make the motion that the Board of Commissioners into closed session pursuant to Section 8H of the Open Meetings Act to consider and discuss attorney-client privileged communication from the county's counsel concerning council's opinions related to a matter involving David Winkle, since information of record subject to the attorney-client privilege are exempt from disclosure under Section 13-1-G of the Freedom of Information Act, and that the county administrator and sheriff's office representative join in the closed session. So we will be moving into closed session as soon as we get support on the motion.
I'll support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Roll
Opposed?
call.
Oh, roll call.
Roloffs.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Worzakki,
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
motion carried.
Thank you. Go set,
All unmuted.
please. All right, we're back in session.
As a result of closed session, a motion should be adopted to allow legal counsel to move forward as discussed in closed session with the Winkle versus Benzie County Sheriff.
I'll make that motion.
And support.
Motion and support. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Cunningham,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Olafs,
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Worsakki.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Alrighty, item A of new business, consider approving an amended purchasing policy and related procedure for implementation.
We, excuse me, we established a new purchasing policy about 2 years ago here in Benzie County. And in the course of ensuring that our policies are functioning as we intended and things, are correct in those policies, we looked over this policy with the Buildings and Grounds Committee. And with that committee, we have recommended the changes that are outlined in your packet for the policy and the procedure. The biggest change to that is actually memorializing the step of going to the buildings and grounds for some of those larger purchases. Now, everyday purchases for the county do not have to go to the Buildings and Grounds Committee, but when they hit that $5,000 threshold, where they're going to be going also to the Board of Commissioners, the next step is in Buildings and Grounds before it goes to the Board of Commissioners. So that really is the biggest change in all of this. None of the spending limits are changed. That limit that we have established for department head administration and then the board seems to be functioning quite well. We also added some items in there about the proof of obtaining 3 quotes in the RFP process, indicating that, best effort shall be made to obtain 3 prices before proceeding forward. Obviously, we know we're in a world right now where that's not always possible, but the policy indicates that staff will do its due diligence to get those 3 numbers at least before they move forward with any of those larger expenditures. So you can see in there, I did all the redlining. So you could see what's being proposed versus was old. I also did a little reformatting. That's why there's added red. We did a little reformatting as well, just to make sure things are consistent across the policy board.
So I'll make a motion that the Board of Commissioners adopt the purchase policy and related procedure as amended.
9 seconds.
Motion and support. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Markey,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Olafs.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Worsakki,
Yes.
Cunningham.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Item B, consider approving a 2% tribal grant application on behalf of Benzie Area Christian Neighbors. Would you like to give us a little input?
Hi, I'm Kelly Ottinger, actually an employee of Benzie Senior Resources, but through Bacon's employment and staffing transition period, I'm doing a little help for them on the side with putting some grants in and that kind of thing. So on their schedule, it was time for their tribal grant to go in, and it's just in general support of all 5 of their operating programs. And I wrote it as such, pretty much the same template that they've used through the years. It just updated the numbers and service numbers and so forth.
We have historically supported this grant application in all the years I've been here, as well as the years before that.
So I had this conversation just recently with Katie when it comes to 2% grants. The county would like to be notified if these grants do happen. I've enjoyed being part of that procedure with
Okay.
the tribe. And I've also been there when nobody's been there, not on Benzie County's behalf, but
Right.
other entities don't have anybody showing up. And I think that is total disrespect.
Me too.
And I don't mind getting up in front of them and saying thank you on behalf of Benzie County and stuff like that. But please let us know
Sure.
if the grant comes through or even if it doesn't. It's a good partnership we have with the tribe and we need to maintain that. It's very important for me, so.
With
Understood.
that said, I will make the motion that the Board of Commissioners approves the grant application for tribal council allocation of 2% funding on behalf of Benzie Area Christian Neighbors and authorizes the chair to sign.
Support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion and support. Roll call, please.
Markey,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Worsakki,
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes,
motion carried.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
thank you.
Item C, consider accepting the 22-23 audited financial statements.
This is a housekeeping matter in front of you each year. After the auditors have come and presented the audit, you as the board officially accept that audit as the final audit for Benzie County. So this is just housekeeping.
I'll make a motion for the housekeeping that the audited financial statements for Benzie County's fiscal year 2022-2023 be accepted. Mark, you'll support.
Motion and support. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Worsakki,
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes,
Markey,
Yes.
motion carried.
Item D, consider approving the reclassification results for animal control. Ma'am.
Good morning.
good
Morning.
morning.
I completed the reclassification for the animal control attendant. The results were grade 3, step 5 on the general scale, which was a proposed increase to 2114. The increase would be $1,372.14 for the remainder of this fiscal year.
Got a couple of questions if you mind before we get going any further.
Sure.
Seems to me when you reclassified some of the other offices, it came in around $19.
Correct.
And now talking about this job that much more requirement, I don't understand it. I thought most of these positions were kind of kept in line. And I don't have all the numbers, so I don't know exactly what you recommended for each other department. But I would think we'd want to stay kind of consistent. Aren't we talking to basically a secretary?
No.
No, this position is quite different. It's a combination of, I would say, an administrative assistant as well as someone who's going in and taking care of the dogs and cleaning the kennels. And the nature of the work is quite labor intensive, as well as you're dealing with potentially dangerous animals. You're dealing with cleaning up feces and urine, and the nature of the work is quite different than what a typical administrative
A
assistant would
couple
do.
of dollars an hour, $5,000 a year.
I understand. Yep. Yeah.
You know, that's where I'm going with this.
Mhm.
We want to be consistent and I don't want to lose employees from one office to another, basically, because they can make $1 or $2 more here. And
It
I would
doesn't-
like a consistent or a list of all these increases. I know I've got them if I went through all the records, but
So
I
We can
just
give you
feel
that
like
once we're
I'm a
done.
little confused and a little not so sure.
So
how
we
this
can.
should be working.
Yeah, we can give you that stuff once we're done. We're almost done with all of this. That whole jumping thing isn't a thing. They're not in the union anymore. They can't bump. That's not how this works when you're not a union employee. So that is highly unlikely, unless that person is truly qualified to make the jump. They can't just make a jump anymore. This position involves much more risk than some of the other positions as well, and risk is factored into this. That's part of the issue. When this is being done, we're evaluating the job descriptions. What is in that job description for requirements of education and experience, the risk, the physical demands, those sorts of things are all factored into this that then establishes these locations on the scale, which then is obviously the rate. Keeping them all the same, in my humble opinion, was very inappropriate because the different departments do widely different tasks and responsibilities, and to have everyone on that same exact dollar amount is quite unfair. When you're looking at one person who maybe has double the responsibilities that another position.
Well, if that was the merit, I wouldn't have a problem with it, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
When I see this type of thing, when there's only a couple of bucks, which doesn't sound like much, but it adds up. It's a lot of dollars, 2,080 a year.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're talking quite a bit of money over time.
Well,
And, I just want to be consistent.
Yep.
And you got one here for $20, 21, and what's the next one, 20?
yeah, well, and just for a point of
$20.72
clarification,
so.
this position is going on step 5. So going forward, they're only getting cost of living.
Mm-hmm.
So with the rate that was distributed the other, for example, the sheriff's admin assistant that you mentioned, they're on grade 2 or 3, so they have a potential of moving up grades for the next
Steps.
few years, or steps. They have the potential of moving up steps
I
for
would
the
think
next few
that
years.
job would be more short of cleaning up after dogs and cats. Could be a little more dangerous,
That one's behind a locked door.
not at all times, but.
It's
yeah,
always locked. You have to be buzzed
I'm
in.
just, I want to be consistent and fair, and I'm
Mhm.
not sure we're headed that direction.
I can tell you that the evaluation that's been done is an evaluation that has been arbitrated by various labor attorneys. And it has always come out on top as the most fair and equitable evaluation of a position and placing it on a scale. I can name numerous labor attorneys who have tried and true this reclassification process, and it has come through and has been arbitrated and has come through as a fair and equitable
That doesn't mean
evaluation.
squat to me. I want to be fair to the employees, because that's one thing you always bring forward,
And
is that we have to be fair to all our employees and consistent.
I agree.
And I'm just having a little issue with some of this.
How would you recommend doing that then?
I don't know. Why don't you take me in there and see where I should be in that?
So you're welcome, Gary, after this meeting, if you want to come down to the office so we can show you the process that's done. So you can see the scoring, not of these individual positions, because that's not being shared publicly. But you can see the scoring evaluation again and kind of go through that and what goes into that process. The other thing to remind you of as well is this isn't just a director score that's scoring this. This is the employee themselves, administration, as well as their
But
supervisor.
it's some
scoring.
interpretation of what's there.
Mm,
Somebody's making a decision. I don't know the questions, but I'm guessing.
One
because-
question is the education and experience needed for the position. That one's not interpretation, that's in a job description.
Yeah, and you'd have either a BA or whatever, a
Mhm.
master's or whatever, you'd have some kind of degree
Correct.
to follow through then. But I'm assuming they're all not based on something that's solid.
What do you mean? They're all not.
Well,
Every
it could
job,
be interpretation. You say, how risky is your job? And you're talking, well, I gotta clean up after a dog that might bite me. Well, I might get bit walking outside by a dog. I'm just saying, I guess I want to see, but I'd be happy to go down and
Yeah.
see.
we'll show you the
But
testing.
I'm getting the feeling that we're not being fair to everybody, so that's how I look at that.
I would
myself.
gather that there's been some unhappy staff who have called you and that's disappointing.
Well, not really. Nobody. It's
I'm gonna just call it how it is.
Well, I'm gonna also say that we're setting us up for a downfall in the future if we keep increasing wages to this extent. So anyway, I'll be happy to come down and talk to you.
What percentage is the increase? Do we know? Are
This
we
one?
talking like?
What?
5%?
This one,
This one, she is currently at 1916.
so about $1. But then there's other ones who have not changed. There's
$2.
$4,000.
There's some that haven't changed. There's some who have been like 38 cents.
But percentage wise, if it's like to Gary's point, which is notable point, everyone gets a 2% raise or something, not so much a dollar, but a
Mhm.
percentage.
But I haven't done the percentage calculations because they've varied so widely and
Would that be
Okay.
a better answer for you, Gary, if we do it in?
Well, last time
percentages?
we increased the wages by a dollar amount or something, plus the percentage.
Well,
If I
percentage
remember right,
gives
Rhonda?
you-
Yeah,
To try and even some of this stuff out. But the more I see this is.
so we did
Little
on
different.
10-1, we did 2% plus $1, yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
This is considered an economic change. So we have positions who, like, I know you're in favor of classifying everybody the same. Well, unfortunately, everybody's job is not the same, and that's not fair and equitable to your staff. So by doing this, you're placing them accordingly on the scales based on the position and its responsibilities, and it's then more fair to the workforce.
But does that take into consideration what that individual can accomplish or doesn't?
It's
it's
based
not
on the job
necessar-
responsibility.
Yeah, it's based on
I
the
can
job, it's
go-
not based on the outcome.
As it should be. I could go be the secretary, but you shouldn't pay me for a master's degree in county administrator
Well, that's your
experience.
choice.
Right. So, and exactly, that's everybody's choice. I could go be the secretary. I shouldn't expect the same salary as if I was the administrator. That's my choice to take a position that may be paid less.
I'm
It's
being
not about
this to
the,
death and everybody's getting mad.
it's
Jackie,
not
did
about
you
the
use
person,
same
it's about
metrics
the
on this one that you
position.
have on every other one?
Correct.
Okay, then I'm gonna make a motion that the Board of Commissioners approves the wage increase for the above listed position with the county administrator to complete the budget adjustment of $1,372.14 from contingency to the corresponding wage line with the wage increase to take effect on May 22nd, 2024, with no step increases to occur until 24-25 fiscal year on the employee's anniversary.
22nd or 26th?
26, please.
Said May 22nd.
Oh, did I meant 26? I'm sorry.
Markey will support.
Motion and support, further discussion? Roll call, please.
Roloffs?
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Worsakki?
Yes.
Cunningham?
Yes.
Markey?
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Item E, consider approving the reclassification results for sheriff's administrative assistant.
So this also went through the reclassification process that we've done throughout this entire reclassification. The factor evaluation score put it on grade 4, step 2. On the general scale, this was lower than what I anticipated. I anticipated them being on the ACT scale, but based on the score and where it was determined, it got moved to the general scale. So when this is all over, I'll be presenting an amendment to the original presentation of where the different positions would end up. The score was just dramatically lower than what I thought, and we all were within 100 of each other, so it wasn't, like, for example, my score wasn't dramatically different than the sheriff or the administrative assistant. We did ask Susie, who previously held that position, to complete the factor evaluation, so it didn't delay process. That position is going to be filled at the beginning of June.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this is not a,
So
Okay.
currently,
this is an
Yeah,
empty
yeah.
seat right
this
now.
is currently an empty seat, correct?
Mhm.
Oh, that saved us some money, right? Oh,
I'll make the motion. The Board of Commissioners approve the wage increase for the above listed position with the county administrator to complete the budgeted adjustment of $4,992.03 contingency to the corresponding wage line. The wage increases take effect on June 3rd, 2024. When the new employee starts the position, no step increases are to incur until 2024-2025 fiscal year on the employee's anniversary.
Support coming in.
Motion and support. Any further discussion?
yeah, what was it at originally?
2001. But
No,
again,
that wasn't much of an increase then.
no,
Correct, that's
and
what
this
she said.
currently is in step 2, so they have the potential of several years of step advancements as well over the course of their employment.
And this wage amount is consistent with other counties in this position, do we have comparisons?
Yes,
Because we'd like to keep staff that is doing their job well.
yes.
Okay.
So the step increases at the top of the hill, at the sheriff's department
Yes.
and at the jail, are they in a line with the with the charts for our administrative people in the government center down here? I mean, are they comparable positions
Yeah.
or, okay,
This position is on the general scale, which is what the majority of employees down here are on.
and are we placing the person on this scale before they've even entered into the position?
Yes, because it's the position and not the person. So that's why we requested that Susie complete it. She was in that position for a long time and understood the qualifications that were required for it and what was needed for the job. So rather than have a brand new employee come in and complete it or delay the reclassification process, we requested that Susie complete it.
Is it a fair statement to say when the new person hires in, they may not start at that step? They could start at a higher step based on their Experience?
There is past practice where we would be able to take qualifications where they could potentially start at step 3. But because this is a new reclassification, I would recommend starting at step 2, and that could potentially benefit them rather than starting at step 1, which traditionally we would do with a brand new employee. But I thought this was a unique situation where the position was just reclassified, so I thought it would be appropriate to start it at the new reclassification rate.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Sauer,
Yes.
Worsakki,
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs,
Yes.
motion carried.
Thank you.
Item F. Consider approving an interlocal agreement with Frankfurt for the use of an ATV and trailer.
In your packet, you will see a simple MOU between the county and the city of Frankfurt regarding a UTV, ATV. I think they're the same thing, in a trailer. The county received this piece of equipment as a result of a grant. However, Frankfurt has primarily used it for their fire operations. So this is an agreement to just kind of clean up the relationship to ensure proper maintenance is being done and those sorts of things of the piece of equipment so that we can maintain the longevity of that equipment for use. And Rebecca is here to answer any detailed questions about the piece of equipment.
Can you expand on what this piece of equipment is?
Is it-
Is it a tracked vehicle? Is it a side
No,
by
it's a
side?
it's a side-by-side UTV.
Okay.
Back in the day, way before me, when, was it 90? No,
been a
it's
long
an
time.
03, I believe. Homeland Security funds purchased that along with like part of the comm van and the barn and things like that. That those funds were available to purchase generators, building generators. The UTV was purchased with Homeland Security funds for services. Most of the services before me realized that Alberta Beach was an area that we could get to that needed services. So it was originally, again, my office used to be under the sheriff's department at that time. So the sheriff's department turned over that UTV as we will use it when we need it. However, let's keep it down in Frankfurt because the primary need to use it will be deployed out of Frankfurt. And so it's been with Frankfurt Fire Department since I've been here and probably before the last two guys that are before me. So this is kind of one of those things that was never memorialized properly. Who owns what, who takes care of what. And so we had some maintenance issues come forward with it, and we make sure that we're memorializing that it doesn't just get, hi, we're borrowing your thing, we broke it, here, have it back.
Is there anything on paper with an agreement with them or not?
Not that
Yes.
we're aware, this is it.
In the
Yeah.
past, there has been
I
other than
couldn't,
it.
couldn't find anything.
Other
I
than
think it was
handshake
just
or-
a handshake that said it's better placed down here. They have their stickers on it. They use their backboard on it. I see it all the time down at our events for the most part. It's primarily used by Frankfurt. But if we needed it for a search and rescue, the
just
sheriff's department would just go pick it up and use it. There's no mind type
That was
thing.
my next question.
Yep.
Has the city of Frankfurt been doing their due diligence and making sure that this side by side and the trailer have been maintained?
Complete the fit.
It is now maintained
Thank
up
you.
to a usable standard.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to hear.
I would like to make the motion, then we can have more discussion, that the Board of Commissioners approve the interlocal agreement for equipment maintenance for the UTV and related trailer with the city of Frankfurt and authorizes the chair to sign.
Marky will support.
Thank
And
you.
I believe Frankfurt may have had this on their last meeting or having it on their next meeting. I can't remember.
The
having it
next meeting.
Next meeting.
Mhm.
It's stored inside.
Yes. Yeah, it came with a covered trailer also just with Homeland Security Fund. And the trailer's listed on the agreement as being one of those things that also needs to be included in the maintenance.
Good.
And this is very wise, having this document.
There's motion and support. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Worsakki,
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
motion carried.
Thank you.
The sheriff knows the history more on that, but I think I was
Oh.
accurate enough, other than exactly
Okay.
what year it was.
Thank you.
2-door, 4-door, 1 seat, 2 seats.
It's just a one seater. It's nothing fancy compared to what the fire departments have now, but it does its job.
All-wheel drive.
Yeah, yes, sir. It's a auto.
Item G, consider approving the hemp application for emergency management.
HMEP, this is actually, the application has already been submitted. That is done through the LEPC program of our county. This is actually the actual agreement where the state says, here's how much money we're going to give you. Please sign this piece of paper to get your money and comply with all of the rules. All of the rules is something that we've been doing for several years. This money is mostly used to pay for a hazard material. HMEP means hazard materials, emergency planning or something to that effect. It is always processed through my office. We give the local fire departments a subscription to what is called Tier 2 manager or Sarah Title III, which is all the hazardous material locations that happen to be around our area so that they can have all of their data safety sheets and everything handy. And it's part of just knowing what you're going into as a first responder, what chemicals are being stored where. So in addition to that, we use it to the remaining money to usually covers like printer ink and things that my office used to build the plans and run the LEPC.
I'll make the motion that the Board of Commissioners approves the grant agreement with the Michigan State Police for a hazard materials emergency preparedness program. Authorizes the chair to sign.
I second.
Motion support. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Cunningham,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs.
Yes,
Sauer,
Yes.
Worsakki.
Yes.
Motion carried.
thank you.
Tammy, do you have?
I have a copy. Okay, well, sign your original then.
Committee appointments?
The ad hoc interview committee sat down and met with Miss Catherine Ralston to interview her for the EDC BRA board. The committee was quite impressed by Miss Ralston, and the recommendation was made to confirm the appointment to the EDC BRA committee, which does meet this Friday. So she'll receive the packet communications, and I do believe she said she was able to attend this Friday as well if this appointment's approved.
We found that Ms. Wallstrom is very qualified for this position with past practice. And it was a pleasure to make the decision to move her forward.
And I would make the motion that the Board of Commissioners appoints Catherine Ralston to a 6-year term expiring May 7th. On the Economic Development and Brownfield Redevelopment Authority.
Awesome.
Motion and support. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Markey,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Worsakki.
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes.
motion carried.
Good. Thank you. Move on to commission reports. I attended quite a few meetings on behalf of the county. I'm only going to talk about a couple of them. Area Agency on Aging, Northern Michigan's 10-county organization. Board of directors, as well as I've been placed on a corporate compliance committee. And another one, I can't remember what the total. It seems like there's a lot. So I have actually 3 components, which meet different times, different days, different weeks. So they kind of keep me hopping. Received a phone call from Benzie Central football coach, the salute to services. Benzie Frankfurt game will be in Frankfurt this year, so Frankfurt is hosting. Their football coach basically handed everything to the athletic director, Mr. Hollenbeck. I've been in contact with him to try to put together a format to do the same Salute to Services program that we did at Benzie Central last year. He was very enthused about what we did at Benzie Central because he was there, of course. So we're gonna try to recreate the same thing and maybe put a couple of new twists on it. I hope you all can attend. I can tell you that we borrow a trailer from the Grand Traverse Area Veterans Coalition that houses approximately 400 American flags on stands. We used all 400 of those flags at Benzie Central last year, and we hope to repeat the same thing at Frankfurt this year. That date is September 13th. It'll be an evening game, so the presentation will take place basically starting around 6:15. The game time is 7 o'clock. Look forward to seeing as many of you as possible. And on behalf of Veterans Affairs, we are planning our Memorial Day event. I had a pretty good conversation with committee member Camp Bailey as his Vietnam experience was very interesting, and I asked if the former chairman of the Grand Traverse Band, Ottawa Chippewa Indians, Mr. Sam McClellan, would be interested in doing a tribute to the Native Americans of Benzie County that participated in World War II and Vietnam. The Indian heritage was very successful in those eras, especially starting out in World War II with the Indian code talkers. The opposition could not break that code and could not get internally knowing what was going on. And they used that same activity in Vietnam. So Sam said he would be happy to. And of course, Sam was the chairman, tribal chairman, when we wrote our grant request for the memorial, and it was granted. So I've met with him on many occasions over the last 8 years, and it'll be great to have him there. We're also gonna have a tribute for a recent death of a gentleman from the Lake Ann area who contracted brain cancer due to burn pits in Afghanistan, and recently passed away. So at the 5K run in Lake Ann on I think the 20th. Becky has it. 20th of June. They will start out right downtown in the village of Lake Ann. It's a 5K course. I think it was about 17.5 minutes last year. They were hoping for 100 people last year, and it was over 300. So it's a great event for the community. That money that's raised on behalf of Eric Florup has been, after all expenses, the remainder of that money is going to be donated to Benzie County Veterans Affairs. We are setting up a separate line item to keep that monies separate from the normal soldiers and sailors relief money. And we will designate its uses at a later date. And I would answer any questions anybody has.
What time is the Memorial Day?
Yeah.
1 o'clock.
Thank you.
Yep, and I have the Civil War cannon is coming again, which is always great. Honor Guard.
And you have an online presence for the 5K run on June 20th to sign up?
I think there is.
Is there?
Yep. If not,
Run Lake Ann?
right. Yeah, it's pretty neat. If you ever, one of the bailiffs is a village president, so Mr. Hawkins. So it was kind of his putting that together last year. That was a huge success. So, and he's a runner as well. So you can always tell when it's him because he runs very awkwardly.
Mark Fidrich.
Yeah, he's getting all the movements in.
Full body workout.
Yeah, full body workout. So I'd answer any questions if anybody has any. If not, we will move on. Commissioner Janat, you have his report. Commissioner Cunningham.
Yes, I'll just, like you said, Chair, I'll just go over a couple items here.
Thank you.
Three of us attended the MAC conference, so I have an outline there. And things that I thought would be helpful for you, I gave you a copy of before the meeting. The revenue sharing, it's just 1-page sheets, and I know you sent it, but this is a hard copy. At the Lake Township meeting, Mr. Eagleton showed up again, and he is running for a judge position, and he gave a lot of Egler. Thank you. I was going to say, I'm trying to remember his name. Thank you.
Eagleton.
Yeah. Egler.
GLER.
And he gave a lot of good information, was open for questions and answers. So I was glad that he was there to share, and I've seen him at quite a few meetings, and probably you have too. Then the EDC was an ad hoc, and we went over that pretty information. So, and Art Janat was there via telephone, and he asked a lot of additional questions, and I just said, we want to make sure that those questions are recorded, and if we have other applicants, that they will be given the same questions. So one person has also the scripted ones that are prepared, but the ones that were also given on that day. So that was the information on that.
And I'll follow up that we would encourage all of you to attend in person if possible. It makes it a little awkward when you're interviewing someone and you're on a phone call.
Thank you.
As far as I'm concerned, it just doesn't work. You can't see posture. You can't see
Right.
reactionary activities. I understand Art was inconvenienced and couldn't make the meeting, but if you're able, we would appreciate it.
Right.
Attend
Or maybe
personally.
not serve on that ad hoc.
That as
whichever.
well.
Could be. So the MAC Environment Regulatory Committee, we are on break September, so this was our last one, and we were also working on the master plan, like we will be doing in study session this afternoon, I think, is part of it.
I like the I think part.
There we go. And then the day of prayer, it was a solemn and joyous occasion and very well attended. So unless there are questions.
Thank you for going.
Yep, thank you. Anybody else?
Thank-
Round 9. Commissioner,
Yes.
District 4.
I did a few meetings. The Land Bank Authority, we did a property inventory and review. There was conversation about exploring a program. And by that, I mean obtaining their PREs or navigating probate. A lot of times Shelley Thompson, the executive director, was sharing, she learned about this from her higher position in the land bank, saying that people are talking about folks who live in homes who are owned by, say, family or somebody else, and they're in the home and may have rights, but they don't have the means or the knowledge how to navigate getting the property home exemption or getting title transferred or how to get it through probate. And so the land bank is looking at perhaps initiating a program to help with that. 2 bids were received by the land bank on Thompsonville vacant property. They approved the sale to Brooke Haas, whose target purchasers can't qualify for conventional mortgage, but do qualify for VA, RD, or other programs. This is a little bit different than what Habitat for Humanity looks for. They qualify folks a different way and through a different process and means. Habitat for Humanity representative was there. They built 2 homes on land bank properties purchased from the land bank last year and are attempting to build 3 houses this year. They were awarded $100,000 from the Habitat for Humanity Michigan Advancing Affordable Housing Grant Program. So they are going to be very active this year. The executive director was directed to negotiate the purchase of 7440 River Street from Homestretch, so the property can be attached to the home and then sold. Last week, she was supposed to try and sell them the house. They didn't want the house, so now the land bank is gonna try and buy the property from them to get them together so it can be sold and remediated within a certain period of time. I attended the Village of Benzonia meeting. They approved forgiveness of water bills at 7440 River Street as requested by the land bank. They need that title unencumbered by taxes and liens. They approved an application for a proposed water system improvement plan. They're going to apply to the Drinking Water Revolving Fund. Their project will address aged and undersized water mains, surveillance system at water tank and well sites, chemical feed improvements, new mixers at the storage tank, and new roof and soffit on the control house at the storage tank. They formed a signage and wayfinding committee, and their zoning administrator approved 2 tiny homes. By tiny homes, I mean 410 square feet in the trailer park. Have to step outside to change your mind. Joke. I also attended Benzonia Township. They're considering an allowance for their firefighters for use of their personal phones in their duty. They took action to remove a firefighter from the roster effective immediately. They approved an updated FOIA policy. The township is considering turning their tax bills over to the county for printing and mailing. And the bond money for the new fire building and township building was deposited May 1st, and they took action to reimburse the general fund and the fire funds for monies that had been borrowed. I attended the building and grounds, garage furnace for EMS. They needed more sizing information to make a selection. The parking lot quote, 1 bid was received. There was a consensus to make a final push for competing bids. The concrete sidewalk considered was extremely high and will likely require engineered specs. And the Register of Deeds project, they're having a difficult time finding contractors to bid on the job. I attended Central Wellness Board meeting. The officers were selected. The chair is Terry Piachik. Vice chair is Don Tanner, and I am serving as the secretary.
Congratulations.
Thank you. The NMRE representative appointment is Richard Schmidt. We had a Northern Lakes discussion. Their HR audit is complete and their forensic audit is underway. They approved 3% employee raises. And there is a resolution being considered to establish the Central Wellness Network's position regarding rural community behavioral health services delivery in Manistee and Benzie County. Resolution just essentially helps the push, not against CCBHCs, but saying the model we use in rural areas is more fiscally stable than other alternatives being proposed. I attended the Central Wellness Executive Committee. We had a discussion regarding board representation for current litigation. Our chair can't serve in that role because he knows the folks involved. There was a discussion regarding our board retreat date. Our longest serving member on Central Wellness resigned, had his last term, and recognition for his service was discussed. And then there was a proposed temporary step increase talked about for certain employees covering in positions outside the scope of their jobs. And then my final meeting was the MAC Health and Human Services. The platform was discussed and approved, and our next meeting is until October of 2024. That's all I have.
I have one question, if I may, Chair.
Sure.
On the firefighters are full-time or volunteer?
I know they have one firefighter in
Circumstance.
Benzonia Township who is an actual employee. I believe the others are volunteer. To a certain degree, help me out, Tim.
Okay, and Tim may
Yeah.
know this.
Benzonia has 1 full-time
Full-time,
firefighter.
yeah.
All the rest are employees of the township, but they're on, it's called a volunteer part paid.
Okay,
So Chief Adams is the only full-time employee, and all the
okay,
rest are, I do believe they have opportunities sometimes to come and help out at the station, but it's usually they get paid for when there's an incident, when they get called out.
Okay, and then a second question on firefighters. The volunteer or the ones that aren't on full-time pay or whatever, the volunteers, I'll just call them that. Can they be volunteers in different townships also? So we
Very
don't-
common, actually. Very common.
Okay, more common than not.
Most of my firefighters are on other fire departments as well.
Okay, so we probably have a certain amount of volunteer firefighters that maybe look like greater numbers because they're on a variety of townships, but they're only one person.
Correct. They cannot,
Okay.
if frequently, for an example, in the county, if we have a structure fire, it's a mandatory 2-station response.
Okay,
And if that firefighter's on both stations, he can't respond twice.
correct.
Answer your question? Yes.
Okay, so I just wanted to understand that. Okay, thank you very much, both of you on that. And I knew it was, but it was during your report. And are we supposed to get written reports in our packet?
If you provide me with the written report, I put it in the packet.
Okay. That helps me out greatly when we all have written reports and,
I write my report and then I give it to Tammy after I give the report. I don't give it prior to the meeting. I come give my report and then when I leave this meeting, I'm gonna hand it to Tammy so she can put it in the packet.
okay. I like, for me, it works out well because then if I have questions that I need to research or whatever, and I know we've brought it up for discussion as a board, having written reports, not only for us, for our questions, so we're better prepared, but also it's in our record then for the public to review. So
If
I was
anyone,
just curious. I know we did it a few times and I just really would have loved to have instead of just auditory for me.
if anyone gives me something after the meeting, I put it in the packet when I redo the packet for the website. And then I also attach it to the minutes for
Okay,
that meeting.
all right. I just needed to find it just really helps out and works well, I think, for communication in general.
Yep.
All right, I attended the Northern Michigan Regional Entity Substance Use Disorder Oversight Committee. They gave an example or sample of how they're gonna be updating their reporting to, the Oversight Committee. And the reporting is gonna be unique for each county, so we should be starting getting a report direct from the Oversight Committee to the county that'll actually outline all the projects that our tax or state liquor tax dollars are being spent on and how they're being spent. Benzie County's current balance is about $225,000. I attended the Homestead Township Board meeting. The Platte River Park grand opening is this Saturday at 1 p.m. Which also is the same day as Homestead Township's spring cleanup day. Gonna be a busy Saturday. Attended the Central Wellness Network Board. Rhonda covered that rather well, thank you. And congratulations on being secretary again.
That's sarcastic.
No, she does fantastic.
I know she does a fantastic job.
No, she steps up. She does fantastic. With the accounts payable wants Network Northwest Board member orientation. I've only been on that board a little over a year now, so I finally got to do an orientation. That's because we have a new CEO there and she wanted to come in and revisit that process because it's something gotten, I guess, left behind. And it was very entertaining and information. They did a good job with it. The Village of Honor, mostly just business as usual there, nothing exciting to report.
Do you have any idea when True North's gonna open that? And discussing that with any,
Talking about the station.
yeah,
last I heard is they wanted to be open before the snow flies. But
Be a little quicker.
well, there's been some hiccups in the process from the brownfield standpoint of it. As far as the different vapor barriers and whatnot that go into the ground. There's been a few hiccups there and changes. Which those changes then cause a delay at the state level. So then you're beholden to the state's timeline to get back to you, and then it messes up your contractors. So there's this ripple effect. So there was a hiccup with some of the underground pieces. And that caused a ripple effect to push things back. But they're still on track to open this year. It's just not as quickly as they would like. That's why what you're seeing going in there is all non-brownfield related. They're moving along on those pieces of it. But then the pieces that are brownfield grant related, those have had some hiccups.
That's the $600,000 grant or whatever that was. for
Yes,
brownfield.
correct. Yep.
The state's helping
650,000.
that. Okay.
So in order to get the grant dollars, there's a process. So myself, GEI, which is their consultant, the folks with True North, as well as the state, we meet every month and we kind of just talk about what's going on. But part of the grant process is they have to outline the work that they plan to do with those dollars. The state approves that work. Then as they do the work, they have to send it to me for reporting, and then that goes to the state for approval. And when the state approves it, then they send me the money, then I send it back to True North. If there's any change from what was approved to what was happened, well, then you have to go through that amendment change period of, okay, this was different because X, Y, and Z. If that then gets approved, then we move through the rest of the process again.
They prove it one step every time you do something.
Pretty much, yes. But it's happening, things are moving along. It's a kind of a convoluted process because there's so many players at the table and the money has to siphon through various hands.
It'll be nice when it's done.
Yes.
Alrighty, moving on.
I don't have a report this month. I wasn't able to make the township meeting last night, but I'm gonna reach out to the supervisor there, so I'll have an update there for the next meeting.
Thank you. Gary.
Put him down for nothing. Okay. Good to see you though, Evan. You know, where you been? Health Department meeting. We're continuing to discuss the health officer. And there's a resolution in this packet that we're considering. It appears that we're headed. Financially, Doty says we can swing it. Doty says we can swing it. But we have had, I know a lot of it's COVID and that kind of stuff, but the amount of people working there is almost doubled. Workload is almost doubled. So go ahead and hire a health officer full time. He would be there instead of a day and a half week, be there 5 days a week. So hopefully that will speed things up and we'll see where it goes from there. They had their audit, everything was good. Road Commission. Had 2 meetings there. The trucks that they ordered last year have been pushed back. I don't know if I mentioned this before. Because of, I believe they're making transmissions for tanks and there's frame issues and stuff. And they will not accept any new orders for next year. So we're hoping we'll get the 3 that they ordered. And then I can't remember what the date is, 27 or 28, when the new emissions thing go in there. Nobody wants a diesel in, so see where that goes. But it really screws them up because they anticipated these trucks, they wanted to put them on the road and they use them. They're able to collect some money from the state when they put them on the main road, so it screws everything else up. And then once again, they told me they're gonna demo the school. Started yesterday, supposedly. I haven't been by there. Did it look that way or no?
They had the windows out.
That was taken out a week or 2 ago. So
No, it's still standing.
no, that's, yeah, anyway.
I know there's a hole in the back that they had. Holes. Grand Traverse County.
I haven't seen any change in the last like a week. As of yet, I didn't look this morning. It came a different way here.
Well, they should be. They should, I hope. I don't. And they're gonna start the brining process on May 20th, so those roads are taken care of. Naples, it was kind of a short meeting because we had one earlier in the month because they missed one. 77 out of 78 beds. They're still running at 80% Benzie residents. That's good. They went to the DNR TB thing, and here's a map of the area that they want to test. It was very interesting. Not a whole lot of happy people there. There wasn't a DNR officer in the state that wasn't there, I don't believe, so. It was a good informative thing for me, but I'm not the one with cattle. They have till the end of this year to get their cattle tested. 2 or 3 tests. 2 tests, I take it. And 1, I'm not gonna go into it anyway. Depends on what shows up positive or doesn't. So, they did not explain what would happen if they become. That area is pretty big. It's into Manistee County, goes in. I think Weldon's completely in it, everything else. So anyway, we'll see where that goes.
Barry, did they say what the cost was per animal to test?
They're gonna cover the test cost.
Okay.
State's covering the test, but if they did not explain, if they did like they did in the TB area, they're gonna annihilate the herds. And I don't know who's gonna put that bill, and is it based on what they think cattle are worth or what the market is? And I'm not sure. You know, and they're even calling people that had kids that had cattle in the 4-H programs. You have cattle again, you know, so.
Wow.
It was interesting. We'll see where that goes. And then I attended the MAC conference. A lot of breakout sessions, one on broadband. They currently had a program, you probably know, low-income assistance for helping pay for broadband. That's out of money. Talked about deer management, the overabundance of deer, except in the UP, they were not, people were not very happy. So they like to trade us for wolves. We'll ship them up a bunch of deer. I don't know how that's gonna work. And then I went to the green energy one. The Michigan Public Service Commission is handling this. I understand it's a small board. And they're doing the permitting process, but it looks like they're trying to throw cash incentives out there for the locals, which is kind of, I don't know, the way I would like to see it handled. I hope it gets back where the locals have some major input in it. It's not for everybody, so we'll see where it goes from there. And I did in the transportation issues, which is actually part of this as far as because of the electric cars. They're not having enough money to fund the road construction. They're not sure how to do it. One said mileage. Well, that's gotta be a nightmare to try and keep track of mileage. And you got the electric and you've got the hybrids. I'm not sure where they're gonna go, but they do have the option to keep raising gas taxes. I guess I didn't know they had done that consistently as they have in the past, so it does go up every year. And from what I've seen at the road commission, got more money every year, but it was the price of everything. I'm not sure. And the last good thing is Katie won $250. So you guys need
About that.
you need to borrow money. Well, I was proud of you. I just told him no matter who won it, so.
I already
anyway.
spent it on my horses,
Oh,
so
well.
you're out.
Blaine Township, Joyfield I went to, normal business. And both of them, Blaine did approve a resolution for a fire millage to be put on this November ballot, even though it doesn't expire till the following year. because they don't want to put it on a ballot that they have. So that was a good thing. Betsy Valley Trail. We approved 2 trail use permits. One for the Ironman and one for the Benzie Sunrise Rotary. We have pretty much approved a volunteer waiver, so volunteers that work on the trail will sign, be aware of what's going on and not do anything out of the ordinary. We don't want no 8-year-old kid with a chainsaw out there cutting brush, so we're just trying to cover our end too, so. And I also went to the Friends meeting on the 9th. And that's, to me, that's just the way of trying to get a good working relationship with those folks. And that was kind of nice, and it was down here in the Lucky Dog, so anyway.
That's nice.
And the last one was Village. Summerfest is June 13th. Get the right date.
Seems right.
And
17th.
the 17th. On a Monday, or what day is that?
June 17th is a Monday, yeah.
What happens when you get old? They have the meters. War Mechanical is going to begin installation here this week. Didn't expect to get the meters as quickly as they did, so they're gonna start that, and they're getting ready to drill the wells, but they're waiting for pipe casings and stuff, so it's typical delays with what is needed. Last thing that was brought up, and Tom's gone, that there's been some dispatch issues up here as far as working with. Know more about it than I do. Said it was kind of internet based or fiber optic.
I'll cover it.
Okay. And the last thing was, is there something that straight ALS, advanced life support, right, and BLS is basic, that they won't be going to certain areas that have basic? I'm missing something. That's why I kind of wanted to ask Tom.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, I didn't either, and I looked like a deer in the headlights when they asked me about it. So
Who asked you about it?
Fire chief from Thompson. Anyway, we can discuss later. That's it.
Guess,
Familiar with any of that, Jim, that Gary's talking about?
I'm guessing it has something to do with the conversations we've been having with Elmira. And I'm wondering if wires are getting crossed in the wrong ways.
That's my.
Because
guess.
I'm sure the conversation hasn't stayed between us and Elmira. I'm sure there's a lot of talk going on now. I'm guessing it has something to do with that.
Well, I asked him about if it was Elmira. He didn't really. Acted like, no, it's coming from Tom, and whatever, we'll figure it out. Thank you.
Questions?
But I forgot a meeting. Can I just add one more in?
No, your time's up. Go ahead. It's up to you.
Please.
I added it into my report. I forgot this one. It was the Water Smart Land Use Committee.
No.
And that's an interactive meeting regarding focus and goals for groups, for our group for the next 6 to 12 months. And there's going to be a meeting at Grow Benzie on May 16th for the various groups involved in water smart practices. It's at Grow Benzie, and it's all the watersheds and every entity in our county that wants to protect the water is going to be there. So it's about a half a day meeting. It should be. That's all.
That's a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't want to forget that.
County Administrator?
Just a few things from me. So an update on Point Betsy. Yesterday I met with the group and very unfortunate news. Eagle is telling us you were going to deny your permit and you need to move the lighthouse. They've drawn a line in the sand, move the lighthouse. We all know this is not a feasible route for us. So what we're going to do is withdraw the application so that we don't actually get the formal denial. We'll resubmit the application and we're taking it up the chain to see if those up the chain will overrule their subordinate's decision. Their big concern is that what's being proposed for the seawall and the restoration is still going to uproot the bottomlands too much, as well as goes against everything coastal management zone rules. What we're proposing is smaller than what's in place now. What's in place now, they absolutely think is horrible because it's ruining the bottomlands and such. They want no more than a 15-foot barrier seawall off the coast there. Well, 15-foot can be accomplished most of the distance, but right there in front of the lighthouse, we need to push it out to about 23 feet. They said they're not going to budge from 15 feet, move the lighthouse. Nowhere in the law does it say 15 foot is the magic number. This is the magic number that Eagle has come up with. So we're going to withdraw the permit and resubmit the permit, try to take it up the chain a little ways to see what we can get accomplished. I'm also reaching out to our US senators because at the end of the day, the federal government gave this property to Benzie County as a historical landmark and asked us to protect it. Well, now the state is telling us to compromise it. So I'm going to reach out to the US senators and see if they can offer any sort of support or pressure or what have you, so we can try to get past this hiccup. Because moving the lighthouse is just not feasible. It's not. So it's very unfortunate. SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Office, approved everything going forward. Eagle is saying absolutely not. So we're kind of in this limbo frustration phase of hopefully we can get somewhere, but that's kind of where we're at with it. We're pulling that permit so that they don't issue a formal denial, because we feel that if they issue a formal denial, it's going to be harder for those up the chain to publicly overrule their subordinates versus if there's not a formal denial, maybe it'll be a little easier to overrule that decision.
Let me just back you up a little bit. Do I understand correctly? Their issue is the footprint and the impact on the bottomlands?
And the
Is that-
coastal zone management zone. Yeah, coastal management zone.
Okay.
So the beach.
This is an active lighthouse and navigational device.
They don't care.
I'm just asking.
Yeah. We
So
have,
the US Coast Guard actually, I believe, is the one who would have to authorize a move of that.
we own it technically.
Yeah, but the physical location of that navigational device is.
Yeah.
Like, I guess, let me phrase that. The Coast Guard has interest in where it's at.
And the Coast Guard's been involved in a lot of the permitting and such. We're just at this spot where there's been a line drawn in the sand and it's very clear.
How can we help?
Call your people. Call those that you know to put pressure on Eagle. Eagle is a standalone. They're not part of Lansing. You know, they're a standalone agency, but they report to Lansing. So call who you can to put pressure on Eagle to approve an exception. They've approved exceptions for other lighthouses and similar issues around the state. So it's not that they don't approve exceptions. They just don't like the exception we're asking for. So yeah, call anybody you can to try to get this going, because so it's a 1-year timeline from when you submit the new application. Again, if they push this out another year, we're then in jeopardy of losing that over 5 million state funding as well. And so that's the other issue. So the state is giving us a great deal of money. The Historic Preservation Office is saying going forward, Eagle is the roadblock.
And Eagle signed on originally that it was okay. Now that they've changed management at Eagle locally or whatever.
Things have changed.
We decided we got somebody that's got a wild hair up there.
And that's true. So conceptually
I
at the
don't know how to
beginning,
fix it.
conceptually at the beginning of this, Eagle said, go, go, go. Well, yes, there's some new kids at the local office who have drawn a line in the sand.
I want anybody playing in the sandbox.
And Katie, you'll send us the information, the commissioners that you're sending out to the senators.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm
so we
gonna
can
send
support-
emails, personal
No,
emails.
no,
So,
well, that's what I mean.
yeah.
And
So
just-
call
I'm
who
sorry.
you can.
So I understand correctly, Why is a 15-foot move so undesirable of the building?
You want to move the whole building?
Well, I'm saying it's done. It's
the-
been done. People do it, but why are they opposed to doing it?
The 15-foot was an extension out as a barricade into the water,
Mhm.
They want to make it
But the-
23.
but they don't want any more than that, and that's not suitable, I believe.
So they're
Yeah.
proposing moving the building back 14 or 15.
So many feet, yeah.
And
It'll compromise the building structure. Then we get into the other areas of the property. I don't know how far
I think that needs to be
Yeah.
clear too, why this isn't
Yeah.
the appropriate solution.
Yeah, so we've said to them, it'll compromise the structure. That's just
Compromise the structure.
obviously.
Okay.
And then depending on the direction of where things are moved, well, Coast Guard owns property around there. There's private landowners around there. Where do we move it that's feasible, that's not gonna then impede on other property owners?
Because we don't
Where?
own.
We don't own
Yeah,
much, we
no.
own, and so for those reasons, it doesn't work.
Okay.
hmm
I think it's important to note that.
Yeah.
So people understand that.
So that's where we're at with Point Betsy. A bit frustrating, but it's where we're at. I was contacted by the Attorney General's office. They would like to do a roundtable event here in Benzie County on July 5th. They're very interested to know what we've been doing with our opioid dollars and how that has impacted the community. Obviously, they've heard great things about what we've done, and so they want to just sit down and chat about it and talk about the impact we've had on the community. So I'm formally inviting all of you. I'll invite Chip from Central Wellness, the school superintendents, obviously the judges, the sheriff's office. And it's a roundtable with the Attorney General's office to talk about the great things we're doing here in Benzie County. I'll send out some more formal information soon, but it is on Friday, July 5th.
Yeah, like no one's taking that time off.
Don't get me started on that piece.
It's a great
Yeah,
place
that's
to
just making
visit
it go.
during that time.
So, yeah, I know. We're
They want to
working,
be here for the parade.
there's this.
It's a great place to visit.
So we're working through budgeting at the staff level. My meetings with all the department heads and elected officials will start on May 29th. So once we have all those numbers from them, we'll put together a draft budget for presentation to all of you. And then we'll go through the rest of that formal process before approving the budget. We are working through some IT issues, and so this gets to the issues up the hill. So we're working through some IT issues with some firewall and switch changes. And so we have a old firewall device that is end of life. And so we need to move and secure that firewall and secure the network. When we made that switch, kind of the world went crazy. And so things were down in the sheriff's office, things were down in central dispatch and so forth. And so we've been working through that process. Carhu has been great to work with. They've been here constantly. They were here till 1:45 in the morning dealing with stuff. We finally have this workaround where things are up and running, except for a few minor things in dispatch based on a text I just received. And then we're working on still that new firewall and configuring everything to keep everything running up the hill. Long story short is Benzie County's network is set up very, very unique, and it's not like anyone else's network. And so what could be a seamless switch in another network is not real seamless in Benzie County. And our prior IT vendor did not map our system out. So Tim knows this best. Typically there's, information and mapping of your network infrastructure and the whole thing. We don't have that. And so we kind of go into some of these changes a little blind, and things kind of go crazy sometimes. So there's been a lot of learning through this process. Carhu has been mapping out the different network endpoints and such so that we have this information going forward. So when things happen, we know where to go. We're going to get there. And so we're sorry for things, being tripped up. For 911 calls still being answered? Absolutely. So that is very, very important. But there were some hiccups up there last week that we've worked through. Things are functioning up there today. And so we apologize to the area agencies for that. I did email you the handouts from MAC. So those are the MAC priorities. The conference was a great conference. Gary and I went to a deer management class, which was an interesting class to go to. I also learned about some new benefits that we can potentially offer our staff to make us even more of an appealing employer, benefits that wouldn't have really an impact on Benzie County, but they'd be additional benefits that our staff could sign on to, and it'd be their responsibility. So that's really cool. I also learned about a lot of changes that are coming down the hammer regarding insurance and Medicare. There's been a lot of changes with the Inflation Reduction Act that caused changes to Medicare and the different insurances, which is going to be a hard bridge we're going to have to cross here probably soon, because it will play a huge role into the benefits we offer the retirees. Because Medicare is changing a lot of the requirements for plans. And if the plan doesn't meet these certain requirements, the retirees then penalized until they're gone, which is an unfair thing. So there's a lot of changes coming down. Also, last year, insurance carriers across the board saw 10 to 12% increases. And you know darn well they're not going to hold on. They're not going to not pass that on to all of us. So as I've talked about before, we had kind of a rough year, and then the insurance carriers as a whole had a rough year. So renewals are going to be a bit scary. I just know it. But you'll have those numbers here within the next month or so, and we'll start talking about what we're going to do. We may recommend tweaks to our policies. I don't know. I don't know where it's going to come in at. We just know it's not going to be a favorable renewal, unfortunately. Part of the unfavorableness of it is prescription drugs. Prescription drugs have astronomically increased because people are prescribing off-label, and they're prescribing all these drugs for weight loss. And that has been a huge issue across the board. Priority Health is considering banning those drugs off their prescription drug plan to try to help save them cost. The Blues are talking about that as well. Basically banning off-label prescribing, because that really has been the biggest increase in pharmaceuticals, which has then caused the biggest deficit for the insurance carriers. So more to come on all of that, but it's a bit scary. The parole and probation renovation furniture is coming tomorrow and being installed. And so then Sean and his folks will be able to move in once that's done. So hopefully later this week, and then they'll be officially open for business. I'm thinking about just doing maybe some coffee and cookies if you guys want to come and see the space down there. So I'll send out an email, but furniture is being installed tomorrow. So that's cool. RFPs and bids, as Rhonda talked about, there are a few out there that are open. We have quite a few on our website. Right on the homepage of the website, it says RFP and bid opportunities. We have a few that are open. We'd love if you guys could spread the word. We are emailing and phoning vendors specifically and asking them to come bid. We're unsuccessful in that. So if you can spread the word as well, and then also spread the word if any of them want to be put on an email list to just receive all these, to let our office know as well. We have a list we're creating where we're sending all these things to, but any push and word you can put out there would be really appreciative. And then finally, the digital compass. So that'll be happening at our next meeting. So as you know, we focused on this infrastructure piece and the Robin piece, and we're building broadband, but then we are working with this task force to come up with a digital equity compass and how to move forward with not only providing the internet, but helping people use the internet. And so at the next meeting, Pierrette from Merit will be here to go over the task force's work. In that report, she will, it outlines recommendations for how the county could move forward to then provide this digital equity compass, or this route for helping people access their internet. So that'll be at the next meeting. It's a great report. The task force did an amazing job putting all their heads together and talking about what is the true need in Benzie County when it comes to accessing internet. And so this report will offer some kind of direction or next steps as we move forward with that piece of broadband expansion. We are one of 3 counties, 3 local governments in Michigan to go through this task force piece. And Benzie County is considered the leader in all of this in Lansing, I can tell you that. So again, be very proud of what you've done with broadband, because we are considered a leader in Lansing. And then the last thing is next Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I will be at Crystal Mountain for the County Administrators Conference. So if you need me.
Good job keeping it local.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, we hold it at Crystal Mountain every year. It's a great venue. Everybody loves Benzie County. It's fun.
So when Tim made his original broadband proposal, there were a number of residents that were projected. Those were his deliverables that were going to be able to connect to his service going fiber going by their homes. Do we know where we're at? Percentage wise on that? Is that something we could perhaps have Tim come in and address?
Yep.
I think the last time we talked to him, the question was asked something about, you know, how can folks know
Yeah.
if you're gonna be in their neighborhood or are in there? And he said he thought at that point in a couple weeks, something would be on their website. I'd like to know the progress on that as
Yep.
well.
Yep, so they were beta testing the map not too long ago. So to make sure that we can then publish that as they move into areas. So when the road commission approves their permits of the roads they can go down, they then send out postcards to the residents of that area. So they started in the inland Elmira Homestead area and have moved this way. With the tower project, because that was broadband as well, that piece of expanding the middle mile, that kind of jumped to the front of the line a little bit because of the different restrictions with that project. So they did that, and now they're continuously working on moving this way. I know that they've had probably a dozen or so road permits approved by the road commission. The road commission is only allowing them to have so many permits in at once. So they're kind of beholden to the road commission's approval process to then continue to move this way. But I do know there's about a dozen roads, and it's the inland Homestead Elmira areas where they're at. I do know David Igler, for instance, just a week ago got a postcard, so they're moving in his direction. But I will touch base with Tim and find out where that map's at, because it was in beta testing phase as far as before they were publishing it.
Yeah, and even if he has something where they're projected to go, so folks can have an idea if he's gonna expand out their way. I mean, it's just, you're kind of going, well, I didn't get a postcard, so am I or am I not gonna,
Sure,
you know?
sure. Yep. Any other questions for me? Other than I handed out the printouts, so pass those out into the community,
you.
please.
Next on the list is any correspondence that needs to be talked about? Public input? Gary?
May I go up here?
Don't have to.
Good. I just wanted to thank everybody that came to this service for Ron Heisman. It was extremely well attended.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the community loved him, so it was shock, but nice to see everybody there. So thank you.
Thank you, Gary, for saying that. Ron would be proud. Anybody else, public input? Close public input? I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Evan, motion support, all those in favor say aye.
I-
Aye. 11:24.
That 5K is at night, isn't it?
What's that?
That 5K is
5 in
at
the
night.
evening. 5 in the evening.
Yeah, it's after work
Night is.
on a
dark.
Thursday.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't eat supper.